come up to me and said, "What do you think I should go into business? What kind of business? Should I go to college? Should I become professional?" If I had said to them, "I think you should consider seriously selling water. Start a business with selling water."
Hi, everybody. Welcome to my show, Pensions and Investments, where we explore the dynamic intersection between the business fields and the law fields. Today, I'm deviating from my regular guest to introduce a really special guest, my mother.
How do you do?
Her name is Dina Hirsch, and she is actually going to tell you a little bit about herself. But before she does, let me share with you that she, in her recent years, has become wildly famous on social media. I mean that. She has over 1 million followers across social media channels.
2,200,000, and it's called Grandma Dina on YouTube. Dina with a D-I-N-A.
Wow.
And I'm very proud of my daughter.
I'm proud of her. I'm really proud of her because it's not easy to do this in your later years. It's not easy to do this anytime, anywhere. Right? Social media is a hard thing to become popular on.
Yes, it is.
And you have become really a sensation. And I say that not lightly because over 2 million followers, you corrected me, it's not one, it's over 2. It's pretty amazing.
From all over the world. We
all
get
over
comments
the world.
From all over the world.
So I'm really proud of her. So let me tell you why I thought she would be a great fit for our show, Pensions and Investments. First of all, we are a show that talks about business, law, pension funds. And guess what? My mother, married to my father, who is not here with us today, but who is still with us, thankfully.
Alive and well.
Is actually a former New York City teacher. He was a professor, and he is a beneficiary of a pension fund, of a pension. So I really grew up in the pension fund world, right?
Yes.
And I really wanted to ask you first and foremost, tell us a little bit about what it is like to be on a fixed pension fund as a beneficiary. Do you think that worked out for you? Do you think in retrospect, looking back at your life, that that was a good choice for you to do?
Yes, well, at our age, we do everything in retrospect. We look back and see all the mistakes we made, all the things we wanted to change. But, with pensions, I remember when my husband came home with the paper from his college as to what kind of a pension we should choose. Should it be one that lasts even for me, that I become beneficiary after he is gone? But I had this feeling that we're both going to live to a ripe old age. So I said to my husband,
Luckily,
let's do the one where we get more money, but you are the pensioner. And as long as you're alive, we both get the money together.
Right.
And that's how it worked out. I had a gut feeling God was good to me, and it worked out that way. How it is today, wonderful. No worries about income. The first thing, we know that we have a set income, but the income is there and it comes in and sometimes even increases because some of it is invested in the market and sometimes we get an increment that we didn't expect.
Or sometimes you have securities class action attorneys like myself who recover money on behalf of your funds, thereby increasing what you take home.
And without people like my daughter, we would not get that increment. They're out there watching out for us.
That's so true.
Which is something we cannot do for ourselves. And when we get that piece of paper with the extra money, it's a wonderful feeling. Most of all, the pension is something that gives you security, which is something people our age must have. There's nothing like having a pension. My daughter is wonderful in it. She does beautiful things for people, and they are, I'm sure, very appreciative. But most of all, I can see what she does is something valuable for the senior citizens of our time. And everybody who's senior knows there are so many more seniors living to later ages. People who are 100, in the 104. I have a friend whose mother is 105, another one has 106.
Wow.
Which means that pensions have become even more important in our time. It's one of the things we have to realize and recognize.
Yes. And also, because you're living longer, your health is really much more significant, right? You are going to have more ailments and hopefully less ailments as we figure out how to provide the right medical care for you prophylactically, right? Not just
100%. It's funny, but this morning's mail brought us money back from our dental, which was part of the pension, was a dental plan as well. And I had a crown put in that cost me $2,500.
Wow. It's a lot of money for retirees.
It is. Yes. When you get that number, you sort of are taken aback. But we discovered that we got back. All we had to pay out was $425 out of the $2,500. And this morning we got an additional $200.
Wow.
So it's a good feeling to know that.
Yeah.
And we need to have that because there's so many, we worry mostly at our age about our health. Yes. And so anything that's related to health and can help us and is part of the pension
for sure
makes it even more wonderful.
Well, I'm happy that we're like partners in this without having realized when you took this, because I was certainly not an attorney at that point when Dad retired. Right. So it's really quite amazing that this worked out for you. I'm curious though, would you ever or have you ever invested yourself in the stock market?
Yes. We have. Do you feel it's a good idea to invest in the stock market?
Certainly, if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, right. And who knows? It's like the chimpanzee that can do
well, I mean, there's so much that actually goes into the back end of investing in stocks. But so I'm curious, like, I guess my question to you really as someone who's a beneficiary of a public pension fund, would you ever have rather taken a 401k, which would have given you liberty to invest on your own in your own stocks of your choosing and real estate of your choosing? Or do you like the idea of having this pension fund where somebody else is really overseeing it?
Yeah, I like the idea of someone overseeing it.
Yeah.
I like to go with people who know what they're doing.
Who are experts in the field.
Who are experts in the field.
That makes sense.
I don't trust myself that much. I know what I know. I can make a good cake. I do a good meal. That's what I know. But I'm not familiar enough to do it. And I think it's a big gamble and it's money that's hard earned, and why waste it? Now I have a friend, and if you have a lot of money, you probably could deal in the, speculate. She's 96 and she sits at the computer all day long and she makes money. She
trades stocks.
It's a fun thing, right? Okay, so if you feel you can afford to do that, okay, but it's not for pensioners who are really, I'd rather have someone overseeing
it. Well, I guess you always have to be very mindful in that respect of, I can only invest what I can really lose.
Right.
I think that's really the key.
That's only
that people don't always remember.
Right.
And that's how they start losing too much money. So,
right.
Okay, so let's talk a little about you personally. How'd you get to be so famous? Tell us. Because it's not that long that you're so famous.
No, it's about almost 2 years.
But she really is. Like, just Google her name, Grandma Dina. Just Google it. Don't take my word for it.
I just happened to be walking on the street with my shopping cart because my car was out of commission. I was coming back with a shopping cart loaded with groceries. And when you're young, you pull the shopping cart, if you ever need to take it, from the back. But when you get to be my age, so you're pushing it like a wagon from the front, like
or like a stroller.
Like a stroller, right? And there I was trudging along the street, and all of a sudden someone popped out between two cars and said, "Hi, could we interview you?" And I said, "Well, what about?" And they said, "We're trying to get young people to do more efficient buying, to save money, not to waste." I said to him, he said, "Could you do that?" I said, "Well, how much time do you have?" And he started to smile. He said, "Can you speak spontaneously?" And I said, "I think so." And so he said, "Okay, start." So I started talking. And after about 2 minutes, he said, "Stop." And I said, "Oh, was that bad?" and he said, "No." And he said, he called his videographer from the other car, was sitting in the car, hoping to drive home. And he said, "Come on out and take a video of this gal." And so I started over again, and there we were. Wow. And I did this, and I came, and he said, "You just did a podcast." I said, "Really? Okay." What? I come home and I say to my husband, I was interviewed on the street with my shopping cart, and I did a podcast. And I said, "What's a podcast?" And my husband started laughing and explained to me. I thought it might be.
No, she literally didn't know what a podcast was because I kept saying, "Do you watch my podcast? Are you listening to my podcast?" She'd be like, "Could you put it on my phone for me?" Yeah, and then I will.
Exactly that. And I had forgotten about it. A few days later, I'm sitting in my car. I get a call from my nephew who lives in Denver, Colorado. And he says to me, "Do you know, Aunt Dina, that you are famous?" I said, "Oh, come on. What's going on here?" He says, "No, I'm sitting at a conference. I'm a financial advisor. We're talking about finances. pensions also. And when the conference is over, someone approaches me with their phone and say, hey, you got to watch this. Listen to this lady. And he puts it on. I say, what are you talking about? That's my answer.
Oh, my God.
So he calls me tells me you're famous all over the United States. I just couldn't believe what he said. I didn't even understand.
Yeah, I remember getting that call because I didn't believe that either. I was like, oh, okay.
Right.
Okay, so 10 people saw her and she thinks that's famous. Okay.
Well, it got to the point where I sometimes feel I have to go incognito.
She's a celebrity.
What should I put on to not look like myself? I go to have my nails manicured, and when I'm sitting to have them dry, the woman on the opposite side says, I know you. I go to the supermarket, and I've got interesting 32-year-old guy comes over to me and says, I recognize you. I love it. There's so much value in what you say.
Well, you know what? It's interesting that you say that. I think the reason that people have taken to you is, well, you're adorable and dynamic. But I also think that you're saying things that resonate with a lot of people that maybe people aren't being told by their own parents, right? You said, and so maybe this guy and others like him are looking at you and saying, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. Why have I never heard that? Right. So give me just one or two money tips, because I know that you're frequently speaking about money, right?
I'm thinking of what I plan to do on my next podcast, and I'll tell you what I was thinking.
Because she actually has her own show. We'll link to it.
If 30 years ago someone had come up to me and said, what do you think I should go into business? What kind of business? Should I go to college? Should I become professional? If I had said to them, I think you should consider seriously selling water. Start a business with selling water. And he would look at me and say, okay, this lady's nuts. Selling water? But we're selling water. Right. Water that you can take from the tap that used to be New York water was considered the best. No, we have to lug home bottles of Poland Spring. Everywhere we go, we pick them up to pour them in. It's so heavy, I can hardly do it. And I do it because where I live, it so happens the water isn't so good.
Right. New York has good water, but not every state does, and not every county does.
So we're selling water. That's a business? Never. How about selling air? Would you think of selling air? Yeah. I go to the gas station. I feel my tire is low. I have to go to the air machine. They're not going to let you use it for free anymore. Now you have to put in your credit card.
So what's your takeaway from that?
For my takeaway
is it that anything can be a business as long as it's done right?
Right.
Or that you need a great marketing plan?
So you just said it.
Maybe all of those things are true. All of
those together.
All of those things are true. Right. Well, isn't it true? My kids will sometimes say to me, what's a good business? And I say anything can be a good business or bad business.
Right.
Just like, are you smart because you're a doctor or a lawyer? The answer is unequivocally no. You are smart because of the things that you've learned, who you are.
Right.
And that can be carried along with what you do.
Absolutely.
You're not smart simply because of the title that you have, and you're not going to be successful just because you're selling a certain item. You can be successful selling anything.
Right.
You can be unsuccessful selling the greatest idea if you didn't market it well, if it didn't take off. But also, you got to have a little bit of luck, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that's
in life. I think so.
That's the key.
I haven't lived as long as you, but I feel I've lived a little bit long enough to say you need a lot of luck in life.
Right.
Just a little luck and opportunity. You need to meet.
And meeting and getting the right people
in your life. Just generally, I think that's true.
Right.
I think that's really, really true.
Okay. I have the right to stay silent, but not the ability. I mean,
I love it.
I don't. I just go on.
She's never silent. Never.
Whenever I'm told to do a podcast, they say just 20 minutes, and my husband, who sits across me, points to his watch and says,
"Who's, by the way, the quietest man ever?
Right.
Very talkative. You need to marry your yin and yang because he doesn't say a word.
Very, 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 very overtime. I'm always overtime. I go overtime because I do have a lot to say. If you pick a word, I can say shower, for example. My last podcast.
Shower.
Should I mention that?
Okay, shower. Okay, go. I'll interrupt you.
So when you go here, you're invited for a weekend to a very plush, new renovated house, newly renovated. And because you're elderly, the respect is given to you and you are getting the nicest room and the nicest, fanciest bathroom. So now it's time to take a shower. So you go into the shower and
yes.
you turn on the knob. Have you ever had
Yes.
that? It happens in hotels as well.
It happens, yes.
You turn on the knob and you're grabbing and nothing happens. So you pull with all your weight, but who has strength at our age? So you try turning it. So you turn it to the right and all of a sudden becomes so hot that you're burning yourself. Turn it to the left, you become freezing. And you know, it's not a pleasant thing. So I call my husband and I say, could you please come and help me? I'm having a problem. And he says, wait, I'll get someone. I said, no, I'm not dressed. You
don't get anyone.
Right. So until this finally happens that you regulate it, these are the newfangled showers. Okay, wonderful. They cost a fortune of money. So here I have in my country home a plain, simple shower. We have a cottage up in Pennsylvania. It's plain. You pull it out, and then you turn it gently to the left. You get as hot as you want it. The right is cold. Any way you want it. My kids come who go to all these hotels and places, and they say, Bobby, Grandma, I love your shower. The water comes out so strong. I've never had to fix it. I've never had to change it. What's wrong with it? Why do I have to change the whole bathroom? Everything there is good.
So maybe the takeaway from this is that we don't always need brand new, shiny, because sometimes that's complicating for our lives. Maybe we need to be in a place at times, I'm not saying all the time, where we're simplifying things.
Exactly.
And just enjoying the people around us.
Make it simple.
The things that we have that are enjoyable. We don't need all these newfangled things.
There are wants and needs.
That's well said.
You know, you could need certain things for basic necessities like food and a roof over your head and clothing. But the wants have gotten so out of hand that it's just unbelievable.
So do you think people need...
Excuse me for interrupting. You know what I read this week in the paper?
Tell me.
That the returns on Christmas presents this year are going to be $4 billion that people do not want to get. Never mind what they get in life. $4 billion worth of things people reject or throw out.
Wow.
I mean, if
that's
you
astronomical.
Want to check the garbage cans in the ritzy neighborhoods in Manhattan after Christmas, you'll see what people throw out because either they don't like the person they got it from, which happens, or they don't like the item. Right. But now that's wasteful to a degree it's not bearable.
That's actually so true. Yeah. And because we speak about business and money, I think it's important. It can't be overstated that there's so much waste in what we do, what we give to our children, the things that we think we need to buy in order to be happy. Right. And I don't think any of that really ultimately, I think once you get that, you're not ultimately going to be happier for it. And I think people need to realize that.
You're never satiated.
Never.
Nothing.
When it's about things.
Right.
When it's about things.
And you know what my famous line is all the time, I say? The most important things in life are not things.
That's true.
They're people, relationships.
That's so true. Connections.
Right. And that's what warms you and makes you feel good inside. And you grow as a person and realize from others what you mean to them and what they mean to you.
I think that's so true. I really think that's really true. This is why I had her on. I mean, I have a lot of erudite guests, and this by far, she's erudite in like a cute, amazing way, right? And also in a way that's real, because I think at the end of the day, that's what I really want to bring to the show and to people's finances, to the intersection of business and law, is to understand the reality behind the people who make up public pension funds and institutional funds, and to understand that there are people behind there, that every pension fund is a family, and we have to remember that. And I try to remember that when I do the work that I do, and I'm happy that, you and Dad are the beneficiaries of a New York City pension fund.
Yeah, we're very
So, yeah, we're really happy. And I'm so happy to have you. on the show, doing this with you together. What a special moment this is.
It is.
Right?
It's wonderful. I never thought it would be two podcasters, an old lady and a gorgeous, exhilarating young lady.
Oh, thank you. So watch her, Grandma Dina. I'll put it in the link.
Yeah, it's called Living L'Chaim is the actual podcast. Living L'Chaim.
I'll put it in the show notes. We'll spell it out for everyone so they can click on the link.
I mentioned a thing. Things that happen to me is what I can relate to. And I guess the best authors, those who write books, not even best. You write about what you're
you know
with and
for
what
sure.
You know.
For sure.
So I started off the podcast that day by saying, don't give a little child a whole apple to eat. He can't hold it. He takes 3 bites and throws it out. By the way.
She knows this because of her grandchildren.
Right. An apple today is $1 an apple. And it's wasteful. And the child is not learning. Cut it up. Give him a small piece. And if he wants more, he'll say, again, more. You know, that's so I
think there's actually some great symbolism in that apple story.
Would you say?
Yeah, because I think like that's true of life. Like, don't give people everything that they want
right
all at
away.
Once.
Right.
And don't expect to get everything all at once. That's not going to make you happy. If you get things in pieces, you can appreciate those slices, those slivers of what you have.
Perfect.
And then eventually you'll get
you
the
can
whole
come on
apple.
my podcast. You know, when we were first married that many years ago, it's over 60 now, thank God, and please God more. Our first couch that we got, it took us 5 years to get. We would sit on the floor or we'd take folding chairs, and that's where we entertained. When we got that couch, we were so excited. We didn't want to go to sleep that night. We sat on the couch forever.
Wow.
Who today? From whom do I hear? Oh, we got a couch. We're so excited. Nobody even tells you they bought something, right?
It's true.
So it's what Atara just said. It confirms and reiterate. I do for don't give your children everything too much too quickly, because then life becomes, what's the goal? What's the use? What am I living for? No meaning.
Right. You have to be able to work happily for something in an impactful and meaningful way.
Right.
So thanks so much for coming on, Mom, and sharing your words of wisdom. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And tell me you'll have me again.
I will have you again, right? We'll have her again. All right. Bye for now.